That's Viv and I, on rented mountain bikes, rolling down from the crater of an active volcano, in a tropical deluge, wearing 50-cent ponchos and grinning from ear to ear. I first went to Bali as a teenager with my parents in the 80s, when it was still finding its feet as a tourist destination. 40 years later, we now go to Bali to eat like royalty, to stay in opulent luxury, and to enjoy a relaxing getaway only 5 hours from home. Yes, we have found real luxury in Bali. We also found Mount Batur, and we took a guided bike tour from top to bottom. We are cyclists after all. Here's how our indulgent week-long retreat evolved. Bali won't be on many people's list as a preferred destination for a riding holiday. We were not there with our lycra and cleated bike shoes looking for Strava segments to contest. We were there for a sun-drenched, tropical midwinter holiday, a chance to get some reprieve from the short and cold Adelaide days in June. We were amazed at how much Canggu and Pererenan on the southwest coast of the island have developed. They have quietly transformed into one of the most bustling, sophisticated dining and lifestyle precincts in the region. Genuinely gorgeous fine dining restaurants, delightful cafes with exceptional coffee catering to all dietary requirements, elevated beach clubs with sunset views rivaling the Greek islands, and all of this at a mere fraction of the cost of what you would pay in Europe. On this occasion, we spent 8 glorious days here, every one of them a cornucopia of delicious meals, brilliant shopping, dips in the pools and ocean, and exploring the hidden treasures of Bali's up-and-coming must-visit destination. And one afternoon we spent in the volcanic highlands, laughing in the rain, rolling down a mountain, learning about Balinese culture. Where you choose to stay can make a trip very special. And La Reserve is an oasis of calm dignity and verdant opulence, set back and sheltered from the commotion around it. The property sits in a quieter side street in Pererenan, close enough to Canggu's beach and beach clubs to stroll to, and far enough from the traffic to feel genuinely peaceful. From the outside, it gives very little away. Wander down the driveway and the property reveals itself. La Reserve was acquired in 1936 by Henriette Labou, a French antiques collector described variously as a socialite, a bon viveur, and a love priestess. Never married and unencumbered by children, she secreted her lovers away to this distant paradise. She was one of the most intriguing women ever to make Bali her home. She filled her hidden retreat with hand-picked art, extraordinary decor from around the world, and a joie de vivre that still permeates every room nearly a century later. Next, a young French architect who befriended Reboul and was inspired by her colourful history purchased the property and set about revitalising it. Now it boasts 200-year-old parquetry floors, crystal chandeliers, and a 3-metre Renaissance painting in the foyer that stops you in your tracks. Like us, you will be both impressed and soothed by the large 30-metre swimming pool set in front of a lower garden terrace with daybeds on each side. This is the view commanded from the Rouge restaurant, La Reserve's open-air dining room. It was very easy for us to linger longer over breakfast with a backdrop like this. And our suite featured its own private plunge pool tucked beneath the canopy of a tropical garden with black volcanic tiles both inside and out. It was decadently spacious, superbly appointed, and supremely comfortable. A circuit of the suite moves straight from the bedroom into the plunge pool, but no need to dry your feet. Simply emerge on the other side and step right through the glass door into the shower and bathroom. A fusion of French traditionalism and Balinese spirituality. This is a member of Small Luxury Hotels of the World for good reason. If you're coming to Bali and you want something private and elevated beyond the standard resort experience, La Reserve is your answer. And on the morning we departed, with our souls enriched with the beauty of our stay, we were both surprised and delighted to be presented with our own souvenir room keyring, which would become a thoughtful daily reminder of our stay. Outside the hotel, Canggu and Pererenan rewarded detailed exploration. The beach is just 10 minutes away by foot. Each night, the sun sets behind the Gajah Mina statue, a mythical creature, half elephant and half fish, carrying the sea god, Lord Baruna. Whatever you are doing at that hour, if you are at the beach, this scene demands that you stop and offer your full attention. The beach clubs here are awesome. Up 2 flights of stairs, you get a perfect view of the surfers out on the swell. The drinks are cheap and plentiful, and the atmosphere on a clear evening is hard to surpass. On our first night, we caught a cab to meet some friends in Seminyak because we were a little wary of the scooter transport options. It's definitely busier and more commercial than Pererenan, but it's worth the trip for a special dinner. We started at La Luciola, a beachfront bar that is a Bali institution for sunset drinks. Then on to dinner at Mama San. Mama San is a pan-Asian restaurant that operates at a level that you would not expect anywhere outside of a major capital city. The food was outstanding, absolutely delicious. It was the best meal of our trip, despite serious competition back in Pererenan. If you are staying anywhere near Seminyak, you must eat at Mama San. For the rest of the week, once our friends had headed back to Australia, we barely needed to leave the immediate area. The restaurant and cafe scene in Pererenan and Canggu is now genuinely impressive. Diverse choices, high quality, and remarkable value. We ate very well every single night. Other notable highlights were Wood's restaurant for their incredible yellowfin tuna sashimi, and Home by Chef Wayan for their delicious authentic Balinese cuisine. Their sayur loda, tempeh in coconut broth, was an absolute standout. We also stumbled across a very interesting cafe called Open House, which is clearly catering to the growing fitness influencer set. Yes, they have a standard menu, but also an item-by-item card that shows everything that they sell, so that you can count your macros. If you know, you know. When we were planning this trip, we saw many similar bike ride options. They are all cheap and cheerful, but we also hoped they'd be safe and enjoyable. La Reserve organised a driver to get us to Ubud, about 1 hour away, where we met up with the bike tour van. The onward transport was comfortable in an air-conditioned vehicle with the bikes already loaded on a rack behind the car. The driver stopped along the way to collect our ride guide, whose name was Dewa. Within the first 10 minutes, it became very clear he would be as much a cultural educator as a ride guide. He gave us a full rundown of the afternoon program as we drove up to the summit of the volcano. But let's rewind. Just before Ubud, we stopped at the Lambung Sari coffee farmhouse. This was our introduction to Kopi Luwak, coffee produced from beans that have passed through the digestive system of the Asian palm civet, also called a Luwak. There was a real live Luwak on site. Meet Johnny. He was quite timid and extremely cute, but we were still advised not to pat him. To me, he looked like a cross between a cat and an otter. What followed was a sit-down tasting of 17 different coffees and teas. Single origins, special blends, local varietals, and not to forget the Kopi Luwak. All presented with real knowledge and Balinese generosity. For two people who take their coffee seriously, this was an extraordinary way to spend 30 minutes before getting on a bike. I will say though that they served all of their drinks already sweetened, so we had quite a sugar rush to work off later. So how does coffee produced from excreted beans taste? Pre-digested.
Take 2.
Not bad. Pretty good. Now well caffeinated and generously sweetened, we continued on our way up into the volcanic highlands surrounding Mount Batur, an active stratovolcano that sits in the centre of a massive ancient caldera that last erupted in the year 2000. The restaurants up here are built entirely around the panoramic views across the caldera and of Lake Batur. On this day, sadly, we saw none of it. The mountain was completely unidentifiable, a total whiteout. Thankfully, Dewa pulled out his phone to show us some photos and videos of what we were missing. And then, the drizzle turned to rain. Dewa and our driver then set up our mountain bikes with the correct saddle height and checked tyres and brakes. We climbed aboard our bikes, clad in our glamorous plastic rain ponchos, and descended cautiously from Bayung Gede through the volcanic highlands, the road slick and the rain unrelenting. And Dewa turned it into a cultural revelation beyond our expectations. We first stopped at a traditional Balinese homestead. He explained the family Hindu temple at the front of Balinese homes, the daily offerings and the ceremonies for marriage, birth and death. He described the hierarchy of the property buildings. Grandparents' quarters at the highest elevation at the front, parents and children in the middle, and the kitchen and laundry areas lowest at the rear. A family's values and reverence of their elderly expressed in architecture. Further down the road, we stopped at a large community temple. Dewa explained that every Balinese village has 3 community temples, and with over 700 villages scattered across the island, that means there's more than 2,000 temples. In a place where spirituality is woven through every moment of daily life, that number starts to make sense. We rode through rice fields, lots of rice fields, where Dewa explained the harvest cycle. It's more labour intensive and more complex than most visitors ever appreciate. I learned more about rice production in this one day than over the rest of my 53 years. We passed through marigold fields, the flowers grown for the daily temple offerings that appear on every doorstep across the island. And then, for the last 15 minutes, the rain stopped. The ponchos came off, and we rode the final stretch in warm Balinese air as the valley opened in front of us. The GoPro had experienced a malfunction in the first 10 minutes. Fortunately, Dewa had taken my phone and he provided all of these amazing images from the ride. At the end of the volcano descent, we bundled ourselves into the van after a few final photos. We were now very hungry and very wet. It had been a long, exhilarating day, but we were slightly hesitant about the meal offered to us on the drive home. In a small village, would we be assured of good sanitation? And we were still in our wet riding gear, but we needn't be concerned. The sign as we pulled in said cooking school. This gave us great confidence. The chef produced what I can only describe as a banquet for 2, dish after dish, each one more generous than the last, built around fresh local ingredients and traditional Balinese technique. We ate as much as we could and we were encouraged to keep going. We gave it our best shot. It was one of those meals where you just stop counting courses or calories and just surrender to it. A perfect end to a day that had delivered grand experience in spades at a price you wouldn't believe. Bali is not on the cycling destination circuit. You're not going to find Grand Fondo events, cycling-friendly hotels with bike storage and hose-down stations, or cafes catering to cycling culture. And to actually train on a bike on these busy streets would not just require expertise at slalom, but a real daredevil with a complete lack of fear. What you will find though, if you look, is something sweeter. An island where a half day on a bike immerses you in local culture with a guide who makes every kilometre meaningful, where you can stay in a hotel with a backstory that raises eyebrows, and where the food scene has reached boutique levels. We were soaked for most of our ride. The GoPro died, the volcano was invisible, and Dewa could only show us photos of Mount Batur on his phone, and we'd go back tomorrow. Take a look in the description below for links I've placed to La Reserve 1785, the bike tour, Mama San restaurant, and some of the other places mentioned. If you long for more armchair cycling tourism, subscribe to Cycling Gourmands. More destinations and experiences are coming. Ride well, eat well, travel exceptionally.